then my name is Maria. I run this channel Born to Create, where I help you self-actualize into the artist that you were born to be. And so today what I want to talk with you about are emotions. I often talk about emotions because in my work, one of the things that I focus on most are making sure that emotions are being taken care of, that they are acknowledged so that they can be processed and so that you can move on from them and make your path be free to walk it, right? Because we have so many emotions that we feel throughout a day, and they are rooted in some really primary feelings. So I want to break it up to you what emotions really are. And I am aware that this is one way of talking about emotions. There are so many ways of how people can talk about emotions. So I'm going to try and put what I know and what my experience has been like and all the knowledge I have about emotions into this video. Comprised, of course, I could talk for hours, so I'm trying to put the things in that I feel are most important at this time. The thing is, when you are self-actualizing, and part of that is actually setting up a business too, because as you come into your own, or even it doesn't have to be setting up a business, but it has to be you aligning to your values, your needs, the things that your truth requires, right? So where does your truth, your soul really flourish? And that's why it's so important to take care of your emotions, because most of the time, and especially nowadays where life is getting so speeded up, right? Everything is faster with the internet. Our attention spans, they are reducing. It was from 20 years ago, attention span for something was 15 seconds, now it's 7 seconds. And emotions are part of that because they are rooted in a primary emotion. So there are 48 emotions, but that's not all. There are actually internationally 128 emotions that are recorded or let's say recognized. And I'm sure there are more, right? But these 128 emotions that are recognized, they are sometimes in words or language that we don't have. So it's really like they are nuances of feelings we can't sometimes put into words, but we feel them a lot. If you're neurodivergent, then you will be somebody that feels a lot. Being an artist, that's very highly sensitive, you may maybe resonate with most. However, in easy words, it's neurodivergence, which allows you to really feel every emotion. And sometimes that can be very overwhelming. So if you do recognize yourself as neurodivergent, then this may be especially interesting for you as well, as for everyone. So when we set up a business, for example, we have some very common emotions, which is sometimes procrastination, sometimes hopelessness, sometimes excitement, sometimes it's stress, and sometimes we're attached to a particular outcome, frustration, we've got fears of judgments and stuff. But there's so much in there, because when we are challenged with growing, we are challenged with emotions. So let's take a look at them. So I mentioned that there are around 128 emotions. Let's talk about that. But if we're feeling them, they are often rooted in some main emotions, some ground feelings, which is and really primary, the ground feelings, which are anger, sadness, happiness, and fear. So these are the real ground emotions. And every emotion that we feel on top, like all these 128, they are rooted in one of those emotions, in one of those feelings. Okay, so we're going to differentiate that by feeling. Primary emotions are feelings, and then secondary emotions are, they can even go into tertiary emotions, right? So every feeling, every emotion is rooted in a feeling. So if you are very emotional, or you feel like there's lots of emotions going on, it's always good to be mindful, to sit down and actually ask yourself, what is that primary emotion? Because when we get to the root of things, we are allowing ourselves to be able to process those emotions and then to be able to free ourselves from them, because what happens is they get stuck in our system. And then, you know, as you would sort of like have some, let's say, you're blowing up a balloon, and you know, you're blowing it up, and eventually bursts. This is kind of what happens when you do not attend to your emotions. You just kind of like eat them up, swallow them, and just, you know, push them until it just gets really rock hard or even bursts. So it's so important to attend to your emotions. And oftentimes, you know, we have particular ways of what people say, how to do business and what to do next, and to push your emotions away, to not take notice of them, to just move through. And that's all fine, yeah, but there's different levels, for example, of growth, where, you know, until you get to the stage where you're kind of seeking the things that make you uncomfortable, you're already in that mindset to be, okay, I'm in control of my emotions, I understand them, and I'm going to barge through that. And in the process of it, I know that my emotions will kind of, I'll be able to tackle them. But then we have other stages where it scares you a lot to do certain tasks, to do certain things, to rise up to the next level in your business or in your life, let's say in your relationships. Like expressing your truth, expressing what you truly feel, going and sharing what your feelings are. A lot of people can have lots of fears around sharing feelings. There might have been some past, you might feel hopeless or powerless, and all these things like hold you back from taking an action. But oftentimes you're not aware of that. You are the one that's in control of those emotions, and that you perhaps have like a ground emotion that is tied to a past event, and then causing that trauma and that sort of like stasis, that paralysis of being in that state the whole time. So it's so important, I can't stress it enough, to attend your emotions, for if you want to have better relationships, or if you want to have a business of your own, or even if you want to get out of the job that you're right now to create a new job in your life that you really love. Okay, so there's somebody called Manuel Schoch, and he has created it's called time therapy. But one of the things that I want to mention here is that he has this sort of in that time therapy created sort of like a concept or a chart of how he says that how the emotions are tied with each other. So let's say you are experiencing sadness. He says, or let's say, okay, we're going to start again. He says, for example, you experience anger, and the way out of anger is fear, right? So let's say that you're actually feeling fearful, but you're reacting in anger. And this is why a lot of people around the world are, you know, angry, or this is their fight or flight, certain thing. Yeah, we're going back to fight or flight, anger and sadness. Flight is like running away, anger and fear. Flight is running away, fear activates that, and anger is the fight, right? So these two are very coupled. But then again, they're also coupled with sadness. So let's say you have unexpressed anger, and that's also, it happens, a lot of people, they choose to not express or not to feel anger because they, of many reasons, you know, they always people please, they always do the right thing for people, you know, they never want to show their emotions because they don't want, you know, what he also says, and what I also agree with, is that we have that ground fear, the really like the core fear of all humanity is not to be loved and not to be able to experience love. So what one of the things is that if you are having unexpressed anger, one of it, okay, it's suppressed anger, it's still there, but it can show itself up in sadness. So if you're sad, you might actually be angry, but not be acting on it, and then being in the space of sadness. So if sadness is not given the weight, so like if you're able to non-attach to the emotion by being, okay, I know this is what the emotion is, what the feeling I'm feeling is, but I'm not going to put any content into it. I'm not going to say, but it's because of this and it's because of that, and giving it all the reasons to. Of course there's reasons, but if you can non-attach from it and don't give it content, then the sadness can release into love. But what often happens is that you might feel sad, sad, angry, fear, sad, angry, fear, sad, angry, fear, and be in that space a lot of the time, and therefore never get out into releasing it. So one ways of doing that is actually to really feel the emotion. In art therapy, for example, we have a tool that we give each emotion a color, and we just give it space, and then we notice, okay, so anger, I'm giving it a certain color and I'm giving it space. And then I'm noticing, now I don't feel the anger anymore. So I go, okay, now it's actually fear. So I go and spend time in that space and I color it fear until that emotion goes. And then maybe sadness comes up, maybe happiness comes, then maybe anger comes back, then maybe fear comes back. And this is kind of like, you have to imagine that the feelings, they're all layered, right? There's one core thing, and all these feelings are layered. And then when you actually give them space and take off each layer, like the onion type, yeah, and then you get to the core, you're able to release it. But the thing is, with the fast-paced environment that we're in right now, we always have been in some way, we're kind of like taking in so many things, and we're feeling so many emotions, and it's too quick to be able to actually process them. We have to do it consciously. We have to do it consciously and sit with them. So just to recap, you've got primary emotions, which are called feelings. Then we've got secondary emotions, tertiary emotions, altogether around 128, perhaps even more. And then we have the concept of how they are tied, how they are different layers, and how unexpressed fear can be sadness, anger that's kind of doesn't want to be felt, goes into fear. So if you're a really anxious person, you might it might be good for you to actually feel that anger, because that anger then is almost like an activation of your soul and of your purpose and of your desire. But because you are staying in that fear and you're not feeling that anger because you don't allow yourself, then it's kind of like you're creating that panic, that anxiety. And one thing I want to also mention is that we have different thoughts, right, for each emotion. So let's say we're thinking a thought, and I'm going to go through some thoughts for you in a second, just so that you can identify with some, and they will be rooted in an emotion, and that emotion will be rooted in a feeling. So one of the things, for example, if you're feeling angry, you might have thoughts of like, that's not allowed, that's wrong, that wasn't right, or it was wrong, or I'm awful, that person is terrible, how could they, right? So in an emotion, you might feel like kind of like angry, even like disappointed, or you had enough, or you're frustrated, or you're agitated, or you are irritated, or feel hate. All these things would be anger. So then when you know, okay, that's actually the root of that is anger, then you might say, okay, so what's my typical pattern like? Do I often turn between anger and fear? If anger is there, then most likely you have a fear, because they're so tied. So what are you fearful of? If we go to, let's say, okay, let's go to sadness. You might think, I'm never going to get back what I've had, or I'm never gonna have what I need. I'm never gonna, be loved, or stuff like that. So, that kind of like goes into the motion of being sad, of being a little bit low, or of kind of being thoughtful as well. So if you're very much in a thoughtful space and maybe even nostalgic and stuff, there may be that you have that feeling of sadness underneath. So if we go back to what sadness actually can do, has the potential to be allowed, it kind of has the potential to be released into love when you don't give it the content. So let's say you're feeling that sadness and you're feeling like all the reasons why you're feeling sad, and there's obviously enough reasons why, because we are in this human experience, absolutely all of these emotions and feelings that I'm talking about, it's absolutely human, normal, and important, and they are actually helpers. Okay, I just want to say they're not negative, very, very important, but they are helpers. They help us get to the root of things. They help us move on. And when we are able to kind of be, okay, I am sad, I'm feeling the sadness, I might not get back what I wanted. When we're able to non-attach from it, and obviously that requires a process. If we stop giving the sadness content, like if we stop feeding the sadness, but bring ourselves into an awareness of, okay, I want to stop this now, then we're able to release it with love. So that obviously takes a moment of accepting it, a moment of spending time with it, and a moment of really sorting out, okay, what you're feeling and what the reasons are, and come to a place of acceptance. So another thing, of course, there's like the feelings of shame and hopelessness and loneliness and all of these, and I would even say that they are secondary feelings, even though they are primary feelings. But so they could be like still primary feelings, is what I'm trying to say, because they are just they are different, but the core feelings that we do have always go down, even under shame and under loneliness and stuff. It can always go back to fear in the end. And if I'm going to now blow this up a little bit more, then there's only a duality. There's only two energies. There's the fear and the love, the trust. Okay, so what we always want to do is get all those emotions into a feeling, to understand what the feeling is, then understand what the fear is underneath, and then be able to release it. When we're noticing ourselves be mainly in a particular feeling or emotion, we really want to get to the bottom of it so that we can release it. That brings me to the next thing, because you can actually get addicted to feelings, to emotions. So you may think, I'm depressed, I'm sad, everything's hopeless, going back to kind of as well to sadness. You might not think that you actually are addicted to that, but this is the core of addiction, is us being addicted to emotions. So even being addicted to drugs is not the addiction to the drugs, it's the addiction to the feeling that is creating. It is escaping reality, the perceived reality, the experienced reality, because reality is what you make it. But you can get addicted to it because there may be a certain payoff. First of all, your body gets used to it. So if you had experienced a lot of very heavy emotions in your childhood, for example, then most likely to be experiencing and repeating those emotions over and over again in your life, because that's what you know. So if you've been experiencing anger by your parents, and you've therefore like got repressed anger, then either you might go into the direction of feeling repressed anger but not being aware of it, and it might burst out sometimes, or you might not feel at all, or you might be very indirectly passive aggressive, but you've got this repressed anger, and it's playing, you're kind of addicted to it because it's not released, but also it's what you're used to. So that's the part of it. We can be addicted to the emotions that we're feeling. So if we're constantly feeling angry, we might be addicted to that. We also have a payoff. We can have a payoff from feeling that way, because we might then have the discussions that we want to have. We might actually feel the importance, like our ego or our like unmet needs. At the end of the day, all of this is grounded and rooted in unmet needs. Might feel that need of, you know, being angry and having those discussions, or even having arguments, because, you know, you're making yourself feel like you're important, because you might feel like you're not important. You might feel like you don't get what you need. You might be angry about that, and therefore you feel angry about a lot of things, and that makes you then love to have those conversations, because it's your way of getting that importance. And that's one way. You could feel sad, and you could like be addicted to sadness because and this is just out of my head, but just to give you examples, because it keeps you in a space of not having to act on whatever you are being sad about. It kind of keeps you in the state of not having to change things. That's one way as well. Of course, let me just clarify here. It's absolutely normal to feel sadness, and you know, there are some things that happen which, you know, of course you're going to feel very sad about, and it's so important to feel that sadness, and it's important to feel the anger. I think I've now made the point how important it is to acknowledge and to feel those feelings, because they are helping you. The thing is, when they become chronic, let's say they become a sort of like a constant, or almost like you know, you might think of a person and you might, oh, that person, they're always angry, or that person constantly like inside themselves, or there might be somebody and they're constantly talking about that they're lonely or feeling lonely. Yes, that's absolutely true. But also, you know, when they don't, and when you don't try to act on it, to acknowledge your emotions, to act on them, and to give them the space to be, and to get to the next layer and to feel them, then you are going to replay and replay and replay, and obviously you're going to get the same back from life. So let's just recap that last part. It is absolutely it's absolutely normal that you get addicted to emotions. So if you truly want to get out of those emotions, it's important to have a look at them, acknowledge them, and to just the awareness of those emotions, that we can get addicted to them, and that they do become a pattern. They will then have an effect on the things, the thoughts that we feel, the thoughts that we think, the emotions that we feel, and also the replays like of our lives, the things that we're being mirrored. So you might see certain patterns repeat themselves. So lastly, I want to also mention, because it's all tied and I'm going to make separate videos. Lastly, it's also about, for example, Nir Eyal, he talks about this. And he has spent past few years working on what distraction truly is. Because we always say distraction, let's say you're looking on your phone, it's because it's the rewarding center that, you know, it's the need for reward all the time. Yeah, we do get addicted to that too. But it actually goes really far deeper, because our distraction, when we get distracted throughout the day, and that's why neurodivergents have this distractibility, because there are so many emotions, so many of them, that, you know, it's, if you don't process them, don't give them space, they're just constantly ding, 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 and the distractibility is highest. Everyone gets distracted, and let me tell you why. Because we are trying to escape pain. And that pain could be a glimpse of a feeling of, oh, I can't do this, it's overwhelming, it's too much. Oh, you know, I'm bored. Oh, you know, I needed to do this over there because I'm fearing that I'm going to be missing out. Oh, I need to do this because I have a fear of not having enough time. Or I'm unsure because I don't know whether this is the right thing that I should be doing. All these things, yeah, the tiny emotions. Obviously, as I said earlier, there are emotions that don't even have a name, and we are distracted because we want to escape emotions. We want to escape the negative emotions that we perceive as negative, but we're not consciously aware of that because that's how quick they kind of go. So also there, it's important to kind of know, what am I actually feeling in that moment when I do get distracted, because I'm trying to, with the distraction, with going onto the internet and scrolling and this and that, I'm trying to escape pain. Yeah, it's a reward system, but it's also I'm trying to escape a pain. And this is what we're doing generally in life. We always try to escape pain. We're not looking at the emotion. We're not looking inside. We're looking outside. We are, wanting outwards approval. We want outward validation. We don't want people to not love us. Remember the kind of like core fear that us humans have, the fear of not being loved. It always comes down to that, and the fear of not experiencing love. So we do all these kind of things. We react to the emotions, to the motion. And going back to what emotion in Latin is actually flowing movement. So it is like constantly flowing, right? And its energy is creative energy, because we are creative beings. So we constantly have this energy and it's flowing, and we sometimes just need to pause and look what's underneath, what's currently that emotion. Why am I not progressing in certain areas? Why am I not doing the action that I truly want to do? And it comes down to actually attending emotions, to become aware of them and actually look at the other side of it. Like, what's the worst thing that could happen? What's the best thing that could happen if I did do that? Or sometimes we don't even know what we're fearful of. So that's just really, really important. So I hope this has been useful. It's supposed to help you self-actualize. Understanding your emotions and attending them is like key, because there is somebody, and I can't quote them right now, who has said, if the success only happens when you don't suppress emotions, like when you actually look at them. Because making business, for example, it's very emotional, and therefore you have to attend them, because if you don't, you will not progress. It's like you get to a certain stage, but then the emotions that will stop you because of trauma, and also obviously the emotions, I didn't really go into that, but stuck emotions, they are basically, if you had a traumatic event, for example, something that's happened, it could even be, there's different levels of trauma, that anything that's really had an imprint within you, those emotions are stored within every cell of your body, and just a color that you see can reactivate that feeling. And therefore events that look similar to events that might have been really traumatic or really imprinting in your mind, then you will react to that, but you might not be consciously aware of that, because this is a very automatic thing. And also emotions have helped people over centuries to survive, and the more cerebral we have become with society, the more those emotions have actually created instincts within us for certain things that might have caused survival. But that again, it shows that those emotions, they are tuned or fine-tuned by memory, by collective memory, and by memory of your own. So it's important to actually give them the space to acknowledge them, because that is giving them a met need. You're attending them. It's really important. And then they can go, and then you can decide what you want to experience in your life and how to move through it without feeling all these emotions that are subconsciously holding you back. So yeah, I'm going to finish here, and I hope this has been useful. Whatever challenge you're currently experiencing, just have a look at your emotions, and you will be able to get to your next level. All right. Thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video and want to see more of this, I am going to be talking more about emotions and the internal world in order, all about self-actualization, so that you have a better understanding about who you are and how you function, so that you can make free will choices in your life and be the artist you were born to be. All right, bye.